Good morning, 5th grade. We're going to continue reading in our text, Esperanza Rising. There it is, getting to the page. We're going to begin chapter 3 today. Before we get started, we have a quick write. It says, at the end of the chapter, why does Esperanza feel her heart drop and that she has sunk into a dark hole of despair and disbelief? Use details from the text to write your answer. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for the focus question. It says, how do Esperanza, Mama, and Abuelita respond to the death of Papa? Our focus standard is making inferences about Mama, Abuelita, and Esperanza based on how they respond to challenge. And then we're going to compare and contrast their responses to Papa's death. Our vocabulary words today are smother, and that means to kill someone by covering their mouth, suffocating them. You can also smother a fire or kill a fire by doing the same thing. So draw a line to this picture. The next vocabulary word is condolences. That's when you express sympathy because of someone's death. So you would draw a line to this picture. And then the last word is empathy, and that's the ability to understand and share the feelings of someone else. You're putting yourself in their shoes. Go ahead and turn the page, and we're going to begin reading on page 23, chapter 3, Las Papayas. All right, and then there's a proverb at the beginning of the chapter that says, these are the morning songs which King David used to sing to all the pretty girls. We sing them here to you. All right, let's begin reading using our CSPS strategy. Esperanza heard Papa and the others singing. They were outside her window, and their voices were clear and melodic. Before she was aware, she smiled because her first thought was that today was her birthday. I should get up and wave kisses to Papa. But when she opened her eyes, she realized she was in her parents' bed on Papa's side that still smelled like him. And the song had been in her dreams. Why hadn't she slept in her own room? Even the events of last night retched her mind into reality. Her smile faded, her chest tightened, and a heavy blanket of anguish smothered her smallest joy. We'll stop right there. And make sure you have this sentence underlined with a CL beside it. Esperanza wakes up and remembers that her father has been murdered. That's what you would write down in box 1. Esperanza wakes up and remembers that her father has been murdered. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for the quote. And you would write down this quote at the bottom of page 23 in box 1. Press pause to write down the quote and play when you're ready to keep reading. Let's go ahead and turn the page. Top of page 24. Papa and his vaqueros had been ambushed and killed while mending a fence on the farthest reaches of the ranch. The bandits stole their boots, saddles, and horses. They even took the beef jerky that Papa had hidden in his pockets for Esperanza. Esperanza got out of bed and wrapped un shawl around her shoulders. The shawl felt heavier than usual. Was it the yarn? Or was her heart weighing her down? She went downstairs and stood in La Sala, the large entry hall. The house was empty and silent. Where was everyone? Then she remembered that Abuelita and Alfonso were taking Mama to see the priest this morning. Before she could call for Hortensia, there was a knocking at the front door. Who's there? Called Esperanza through the door. It's Señor Rodriguez. I have the papayas. We'll stop right there because we have the setting. Make sure you have this sentence underlined in the text with an S out beside it. In box 2, we would write, Esperanza is alone in her house on the morning of her birthday. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for the quote. And we will write down this quote in the box. Esperanza got out of bed and wrapped un shawl around her shoulders. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready to keep reading. We're at the bottom of page 24. Esperanza opened the door. Marisol's father stood before her, his hat in his hand. Beside him was a big box of papayas. "Your father ordered these for me for the fiesta today. I tried to deliver them to the kitchen, but no one answered." She stared at the man who had known Papa since he was a boy. Then she looked at the green papayas ripening to yellow. She knew why Papa had ordered them. Papaya, coconut, and lime salsa was Esperanza's favorite, and Hortensia made it every year on her birthday. Her face crumbled. "Señor," she said, choking back tears, "have you not heard? My Papa is dead." Señor Rodriguez stared blankly, then said, "¿Qué pasó, niña? What happened?" She took a quivery breath. As she told the story, she watched the grief twist Señor Rodriguez's face and overtake him as he sat down in the patio bench, shaking his head. She felt as if she were in someone else's body, watching a sad scene, but unable to help. All right, make sure you have this sentence underlined, okay? Esperanza is telling someone about the death of her father. Let's keep reading. Hortensia walked out, put her arm around Esperanza. She nodded to Señor Rodriguez, then guided Esperanza back up the stairs to the bedroom. "He ordered the papayas," sobbed Esperanza. "I know," whispered Hortensia, sitting next to her on the bed and rocking her back and forth. "I know." And remember, this symbol in our book means that time has passed, okay? So a couple of days have passed since her father died. The rosaries, masses, and funeral lasted 3 days. People whom Esperanza had never seen before came to the ranch to pay their respects. They bought enough food to feed 10 families every day, and so many flowers that the overwhelming fragrance gave them all headaches, and Hortensia finally put the bouquets outside. Marisol came with Señor and Señor Rodriguez several times. In front of the adults, Esperanza modeled Mama's refined manners, accepting Marisol's condolences. But as soon as they could, the two girls excused themselves and went to Esperanza's room, where they sat on her bed, held hands, and wept as one. The house was full of visitors and their polite murmurings during the day. Mama was cordial and attentive to everyone, as if entertaining them gave her a purpose. At night, though, the house emptied. The rooms seemed too big without Papa's voice to fill them, and the echoes of their footsteps deepened their sadness. Abuelita sat by Mama's bed every night and stroked her head until she slept. Then she would come around to the other side and do the same for Esperanza. But soon after, Esperanza woke to Mama's soft crying, or Mama woke to hers, and then they held each other without letting go until morning. Esperanza avoided opening her birthday gifts. Every time she looked at the packages, they reminded her of the happy fiesta she was supposed to have. One morning, Mama finally insisted, saying Papa would have wanted it. We'll stop right there because we have a lot of information about the problem. We know that Esperanza is grieving the loss of her father. And we know she's grieving because she's crying, every night. And she's just overcome with sadness. And so in box 3, we would write, Esperanza is grieving the loss of her father. She avoids opening her birthday presents. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for the quote. And you can write down this quote on page 27, but soon after, Esperanza often woke to Mama's soft crying, or Mama woke to hers. You can also write down the next sentence that says Esperanza avoided opening her birthday gifts. Press pause to write down the quotes and play when you're ready to keep reading. Abuelita handed Esperanza each gift, and Esperanza methodically opened them and laid them back on the table. A white purse for Sundays with a rosary inside from Marisol. A rope of blue beads from Chita. The book Don Quixote from Abuelita. A beautiful embroidered dresser scarf from Mama for someday. Finally, she opened the box she knew was the doll. She couldn't help thinking that it was the last thing Papa would give her. Hands trembling, she lifted the lid and looked inside the box. The doll wore a fine white batiste dress with a white lace mantilla over her black hair. Her porcelain face looked wistfully at Esperanza with enormous eyes. "Oh, she looks like an angel," said Abuelita, taking her handkerchief from her sleeve and blotting her eyes. Mama said nothing but reached out and touched the doll's face. Esperanza couldn't talk. Her heart felt so big and hurt so much that it crowded out her voice. She hugged the doll to her chest and walked out of the room, leaving all the other gifts behind. All right, and so for our solution, we know that Esperanza opens her presents, but she is still speechless because of her grief. And then you would write that down in box 4. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for the quote. For the quote, we will write down the sentence on page 28. Esperanza couldn't talk. Her heart felt so big and hurt so much that it crowded out her voice. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for the paragraph. It says, how does Esperanza react to her father's death? What does this reveal about her character?